So let's talk about that. Like, why is it harder for a kid on the autism spectrum, or with even ADHD or other, nonverbal learning disorder, all the neurodivergent things? So why is that? Like, why is it harder? Like, what makes that harder?
Well, I think their nervous system is just, and I hate to generalize, but generally
Right,
speaking, it's true. Their nervous systems are pretty reactive and anxious. Like they're
right,
kind of right. And if you think about that threshold of, right, go back to the fight or flight example that you're using, right? If that threshold is here, most of us kind of sit down here most of the time. A neurodivergent kid sits right on that line all the time, and it doesn't take that much to push them. And again, it's not provoking them, it's just their nervous systems are already kind of primed to panic, to
right.
be anxious about what in our brains is like no big deal, but it's real to them. That panic of, I don't know how this is going to turn out, like I don't know what's happening. If your nervous system is so primed to flip into that kind of fight or flight space, right? Things are scary and it's uncertain. And yeah, for them, it's just even worse. I mean, and think about as an adult, if you're neurotypical, if you're going into something that is uncertain, you're anxious too. Now imagine that everything feels that way all the time. Yeah, you're going to want to put some controls in place to
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think a good
minimize
example, like I
that.
said, as a neurotypical adult or whatever, like if you're going into, say, a meeting that you're really anxious about, but then you spill your coffee, or you know what I mean, or somebody else, a coworker comes up and has a question for you that's urgent, or you get a phone call or something. I mean, that kind of stuff can dysregulate us as well.
Yeah.
But it's like probably more like that for them just going day to day, right? And
Yeah.
I think that the sensory sensitivities are so high that they're spending so much effort and energy just to tune stuff out,
Mhm.
or ignore that itchy tag on their shirt, or you know what I mean, or deal with wearing shoes, or hearing all
Yeah.
this weird noise, or whatever, and the lights are bright or whatever. I mean, so all that kind of stuff I think has taken up a lot of their coping energy, right? Or ability to try to stay calm-ish.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that sensory piece because I think that's often a piece that gets overlooked. I mean, my son was diagnosed at like age 3, so we had a huge head start on that. But I know for parents who are getting diagnosis when kids are 14, 15, you're kind of catching up. And I think people overlook that sensory piece. And I think my best way of explaining what I imagine that sensory overload to be is thinking about every sensory input as being on 10. I mean, right now I'm sitting in my office. I can see out of the corner of my eye that there are pigeons on my roof and they're flapping around. But right, my brain knows don't pay attention to the pigeons. And my
But now you
dogs can
have to
hear,
because you mentioned them. So now you
yes,
can't
now I'm
not
going
think
to
of
wonder what the
pigeons.
pigeons are over there.
Don't think of a
Right.
pink elephant either, right? Don't
Don't
think of
look.
it.
Right. But I can hear like the fan on my computer is running right now. I can hear
Right.
that. The air conditioning's on where I'm at. My dogs are down here. There's a million pieces of information coming into my head right now, but my brain knows how to ignore pigeons and just put that fan in the background. But for kids with those sensory overload kind of issue, right? Every piece of that sensory information is coming in at full volume. And the pigeons are right there, and it's hard to ignore them. And the sound is there. And if you can't quiet all that stuff down, right? How are you ever going to listen to anything your parent has to say? Number one, because that's just one more piece getting in there. So, right, they're spending so much energy kind of sorting through all that noise all the time that, I think just right? Understanding again, they need more time to make things predictable. That man, as a parent, we have to recognize that and then slow it down. And one of the coaches that Ed and I work with, right, talks about, right, you have 3 sentences to say what you need to say. Like, keep it short, keep it concise, stop over explaining, stop trying to talk them out of why they're right. We're just going to the gas station. That's no big deal. Don't be worried about
Right. Yeah, someone telling you to not be worried or don't be angry, that doesn't
Yeah.
usually go over too well for me, right?
Yeah.
Or someone like, but I am upset that you're telling me
But
just not to
yeah,
be.
this is upsetting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we
But
can give
yeah, it
them
might,
space,
again, that might not be upsetting to us, but it is to
yeah,
them, right?
it's
So,
real to them. And right, just give them that time. Say the thing, give them a minute. Let them
yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah.
work
So
through
I
it
kind of
and
like the,
prepare for it.
like we're talking about, like trying to tune out all of that noise again, like that we learn to do as adults or whatever, or as neurotypicals, where it's easier for us to do. But so I think that is keeping them on the edge a little bit, and then any kind of like change in what they're anticipating, right? This is where the front loading, you're talking about, hey, we're going to go to the gas station, this is a change in plans, I'm going to give you as much notice as I can, so you can wrap your head
Yeah.
around that. Because the processing speed, we could talk about that too. Generally it just takes more time, because again, think about all the noise, and I think that's part of it. There's a new piece of information, it's got to nudge out all the other sensory stuff that's happening. They got to attend to it, and then kind of think through what that means, and I guess verify whether you really do need gas or not. I mean, those are the kind of things
Yeah.
that need to happen, right? So I think, like I said, given time and space and recognizing that one new chunk of information can be like the Jenga you pull, or add, I guess in this could be adding something that then
Mhm.
causes it to fall, right? I guess putting the Jenga on the top or something. I don't know.
Yes, you have to put that piece back up top. Somewhat,
Um,
and I forget where I read it, and I apologize that I can't credit where this source was, but it was really helpful for me to read about that neurodivergent kids tend to process things linearly. It's one thing at a time. They have to do this one before they can do the next one. And in my head, I always envisioned like the checkout lane, right? And you got your little, scanner thing that has to, beep at everything, right? You
right.
can't shove 15 things across that
Yeah,
thing
if you
at the same
switch run your
time.
cart through the line and
Yeah, it's
everything's
just
got
saying,
scanned, that'd
guess
be
all
great.
what's in here. Look at all the stuff.
There's your $1 million idea, or $1 billion idea.
Yes, that's why there I could do it. Right. They have to do one thing at a time, and they have to process that first piece before they can do the next piece. And that takes time. And so we have to anticipate where are those pieces that they're probably going to get stuck.
Right.
What are the things, right? I know, oh, I need gas. He's going to look at the gas gauge. I got to, allow him to look at that. I've got to tell him, a minute ahead of time. Now, if we as parents, we have to anticipate what are all the places that could get them stuck. What's that one more item that they have to scan across before they're ready for the next piece of information? And then, right, that really teaches us what do we need to say, when do we need to say it, how far in advance, all the options. That's on us
Yeah.
as the parent to anticipate for them. And you use the word front loading, right? It's how much can I give them ahead of time without being too much to overload them on that piece, but right? Just the basics.
Now, here's the irony of this kind of work, right? Because one, you don't want to over front load, or that can cause a meltdown, right? So
Yeah,
it's got to be the right amount of front
the
loading, but
right
not
amount.
saying like, yeah,
Yeah,
because if you're starting off, we're going to the grocery store. Hey, by the way, I'm going to do this, and then we're going to come home. I'm going to do this, and this, and this. And it's too much information, right? Trying to
that's
scan those
too.
things
Yeah,
through, right? Trying to scan too much stuff through at the same time.